Hi there, welcome to another presentation of the Globe Sound Healing Conference. Now we have Anna Maria Hefele. Hi, Anna Maria.
Oh, great to be here.
Welcome, welcome. So, Anna Maria holds a Master of Arts from Mozarteum Salzburg and is a multi-instrumentalist, singer, and overtone singer, performing
Yes.
worldwide as soloist with different ensembles, choirs, and orchestras, as well as with her solo project. Her YouTube video, Polyphonic Overtone Singing, became viral and has resulted in more than 20 million views so far, followed by regular appearances of Anna Maria in various international television shows and radio broadcasts. A voice as from another world. The lady with two voices. Polyphonic vocalist does the impossible. These and other headlines have spread across the world. What have you been
Yes.
up to lately?
What I've been up to?
Mm-hmm.
Currently I do a lot of video editing and stuff, and I found a new instrument, which is a charangon
Oh,
from
kind of like
South
a
America.
kind of like a oud.
It's like a charango.
Mm-hmm.
So I find my way around with playing patterns, looking for chords and finding melodies to it. And a friend of mine, a colleague who lives here in Passau, where I live, he's a classical guitarist and composer from Chile, and he plays a lot of the charango music. And yeah, hope to learn more about it soon.
Cool, cool. Okay, so here's the big question. If you had all the money in the world, what would you do to help people on the planet?
How much is all the money, and would it be taken away from these that have it right now or not?
That's a great question. No one's ever asked that. That's no, it just plops in your hand. It doesn't come from anybody else. That's a really great question.
I think a lot of money, something that is urgent to change among many things, is about regarding climate change being concrete being a big problem. So basically changing the entire building industry or renovate instead of building new buildings with concrete and stuff. And it's also a problem to cover all the nature and the grounds. So I think there are very big issues that should need some fixing, besides of people still starving because the Western world is exploiting the African continent and the Asian people and so on. There are major problems.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Cool, cool. Okay, tell us about your presentation.
Yeah, the presentation, I'm mainly working with overtone singing, voice, and music. And it's the first time speaking for a sound healing conference. So I thought about, I know very well what sound is because I work with sound a lot and explaining the physics and the acoustics and the psychoacoustics and the scientific stuff, which is something I'm very fascinated. And then I first had to find out what healing means in the context of sound healing. Yeah, from what I read, it's about the well-being, the emotional, and it's about stuff like that. Yeah, and it's not actually healing diseases, or at least it does not cure hair loss disease in my case, which I'm having since a long time. So I reflected a bit on that and went into then the technical parts and how to learn and the backgrounds with showing MRI footage, basically like filming in an MRI the middle axis of my skull, showing tongue movements and articulation, like what is actually going on in the vocal tract regarding resonance and filtering of frequencies. And then I talked also a little bit about what is sound, how does it work, how does the overtone singing work in the acoustics and in the sound, explaining. And yeah, showing some of my music and artistic projects. And yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, let's check it out. I know it starts with an actual song if you do an overtone singing, right?
Yeah, it's a Overtone Sapiente with my ensemble, with a trio Ensemble Canticles of Now, we call the project. And it's with based on Hildegard von Bingen's music, but with experimental music, electronics, recomposed, also with street field recordings morphed into electronics. So we have a very morphing program with noisy stuff, with overtones, with beats and rhythm and electronics, and more like free flow things with the guitars and the layers and the effects. So it's a very project traveling through a lot of different emotional states and energetic states of experience and being for audience and musicians.
Cool. Okay, let's check it out.
Hello everybody, I am Anna-Maria Hefele and I'm talking about overtone singing today and sound, of course, as this is my specialty. What you just heard, the music piece, was my arrangement of a composition written by Hildegard von Bingen. So this is music that is approximately 1000 years old. And Hildegard von Bingen was a German composer and writer. And Virtus Sapiente is a piece, it's in Latin, and here you can see how this sort of music is notated and written. And it's about wisdom. Oh, wisdom's energy, whirling, you encircle and everything embrace in the single way of life. 3 wings you have, one soars above into the heights, one from the earth exudes, and all about now flies the third. Praise to be you, as it is your due, O wisdom. This music is ancient, and with Tomek Kolczynski and Giuseppe Lomeo, my colleagues, we made this very special arrangement with overtone singing and with the electronics and experimental guitar. About sound and sound healing, one thing I wanted to know, and I just asked ChatGPT about what does healing mean in the context of sound healing. And it says it refers to restoring balance and well-being at different levels, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. It's not always about curing a specific illness, but more about bringing the body, mind, and spirit into harmony. I think that is pretty correct. And there was one comment I received on Instagram. This was the lady's comment to some posting I made where I shaved my head because I have alopecia. And she writes, I thought sound healing heals people. This breaks my heart. But yeah, no, sound healing doesn't heal people. At least it didn't heal me, or it doesn't heal me to work with sound and overtones for so many years and such a long time. I'm not terribly sick, so don't worry. I don't have cancer or anything. I just have alopecia, and you can see here all the bald spots and on my head as well. So sometimes I have hair when my immune system is more relaxed, and then sometimes it just falls off, or the bald spots become so many that I shave off the rest because it looks horrible. So I'm doing music all my life, and my parents are music instrument builders, so this is something very normal to have sound and music and instruments around. And I've also been singing all my life, and I'm doing overtone singing since 2005, and I can assure you it does not heal alopecia or hair loss diseases. But it does something to you and to your brain if you sing, or if you sing in a group or in a choir. So, and therefore I found an article at the Time magazine, Singing Changes Your Brain. Group singing has been scientifically proven to lower stress, relieve anxiety, and elevate endorphins. And it's a bit described here about the choir scene and what it does. It does something to the endorphins, releases the hormones, also to oxytocin, feeling really together and socially connected in the group. Oxytocin also enhances feelings of trust and bonding, which may explain why still more studies have found that singing lessens feelings of depression and loneliness. A very recent study even attempts to make the case that music evolved as a tool of social living, and that the pleasure that comes from singing together is our evolutionary reward for coming together cooperatively instead of hiding alone, and so on. So about the benefits of singing: heart rates sync up, cortisol goes down, so stress level goes down. So there are studies about these things, and they are all linked in that paper. For example, here, performance of music elevates pain threshold and positive affect, implications for the evolutionary function of music. Does singing promote well-being? An empirical study of professional and amateur singers during a singing lesson. Effects of choir singing or listening on secretory immune globulin A, cortisol, and emotional state. And more. Music structure determines heart rate, variability of singers. psychological and physiological effects of singing in a choir, and a pilot investigation of quality of life and lung function following choral singing in cancer survivors and their carers. All these papers are linked in that article and you can find them there. The research I could find about music therapy, for example, it's always about the effect of the melody and the rhythm rather than the effect of the sound itself. As I am mostly working with overtone singing and voice, what are the actual benefits of overtone singing technique? So when I'm working with my students, there are always different aspects. So one thing is breath. The breath is the very base of any singing and of speaking as well. So you develop breath technique, you manage to extend your breath, to control it better, which is something that requires a lot of focus and concentration and also calms you down as you're becoming very present. And then when the breath is there and stable, you add the sound of the voice on top of the breath to make your inner self audible to the outside. So that's the other thing. So making yourself audible is very challenging for many people because it shows everything, like how you are, how you feel. You can't hide if you show your voice and make sound and sing and have it heard by others. So for some that is actually very healing in a way, because people have been told in their childhood, like, be quiet, you can't sing, I don't want to hear you, and then they never dare to sing. And when they are 40 or 50 years old, they discover the urge to express themselves through the voice, and then they often think, well, but I've been told I can't sing because I can't read notes, so I'm not suited for a choir. And then they come to the overtone singing because you don't need to be able to read sheet music, but it's about the singing and the voice itself. And for them to like step over that boundary and start expressing is always very touching, and it's some sort of voice empowerment, daring to show through the voice. The other thing overtone singing does, it trains your voice. The sound just becomes stronger and more resonant and more powerful together with the breath, which is especially good for people that have to speak a lot in their daily profession. And the sound itself has vibration, is calming down, and also it's the case that it does not work in the brain to sing at the same time you have fear. So that's when you tell a kid that's afraid to go into the basement and get a bottle of water or anything. When they're afraid, you just go down and you sing when you go down, because then the fear is switched off in the brain, which is especially nice, of course. Practicing music, like when I sit on the harp and practice, or also in the singing, it can easily bring you into some flow states, which is a very nice way of being. Also, the singing and the voice can work as a pathway into trance states, altered states of mind, which also have an effect on the nervous system. But there are actually many pathways into altered states. Voice can be one, but drumming is one way, or movement. Like, for example, the Sufi dancers that turn all the time. So different ways into these trance states, not only through voice, but it's one of the options. As discussed before, it does do things to your cortisol, lowers your cortisol, brings up endorphins and oxytocin, especially if you sing in groups, like in a choir. It's super, super nice and has a huge effect on the well-being and perception of community. So far regarding the benefits of overtone singing, or maybe even healing aspects for some of you. Why should you learn it? You can find your own answer, and if you want to learn it, you can check out my video course at Overtone Academy here, or book a personal masterclass, or sign up for my newsletter, as I'm planning a 6-week online course, and you're welcome to join to learn the basics and foundation of the technique. So we are going into that now, corresponding with the sound part of the sound healing. So we spoke about what the healing means, what it is, what it could mean in the context of overtone singing. And now I'm going to show you what is sound, because there are very specific physical definition if you dig into the science of acoustics and sound physics, or voice science, or science of the singing voice, as Johann Sundberg laid foundation to that field of research in the 70s. So what is sound? Sound is a combination of frequencies, as you can see here. So if I open a fresh window, we have it here. And here you see the waveform of the sound I'm speaking. So you hear and see my speaking voice right now at the same time. So here I can make it a little bit brighter, more colorful, and can change the loudness and the input volume of my microphone. And here's always the timeline. So and what is happening right now, you can see here this bar, and also what's happening right now you can see real time in the spectrum here. So yeah, this is how my speaking voice looks like. And if I make a sound, it's like this. So this is just an open ah vowel here. And then you can see the individual harmonics of the sound. So here, that's the fundamental pitch, and this is the first overtone or second harmonic, third harmonic, fourth harmonic, fifth, sixth, seven, eight, and so it just counts on. And then you can see here, for example, the loudest one is the fifth and one of the octaves of that sound. And this is actually called a sound, physically speaking. So this is the full sound of the voice. And now I'm applying a frequency filter. And then you can hear now next how it sounds if you just hear the fundamental. It's pretty quiet and very dark. And that is the second harmonic, third harmonic, fourth harmonic, fifth, sixth, seven, and so on. And now I pull the filter down and add more and more of the harmonics of my voice. So that's the full sound of the voice, and this is physically a sound. And if I have a filter there and play just one of these notes, like this, it's like an isolated sine wave, and this is called a tone or a frequency. So this is an isolated frequency without anything else. It's a bit similar to whistling, as in the whistling you also, there's some harmonic there, but mainly just one pitch, and a combination of pitches, of frequencies, results in a sound. So that's what a sound is. And then you can make so many different sounds, and depending on how they are shaped, the vowels are different. A, E, I, O, U. So you have an open vowel, A vowel, maybe looks like that. If I go to E, then you have like high overtones in the sound amplified and the mid ones taken out. That's why it sounds bright. And with an U, you have dark ones and these ones taken out. So the complexity of vowels is what we work with in overtone singing. And now in overtone singing, I make the vowels just so specific that they stop amplifying groups of overtones and they start amplifying individual overtones, making them audible and stick out of the sound. So there you can see that one come out and you can hear it if you train your ears. That's the vowel technique. So that's the first technique you learn, and you basically just do it with singing slow vowel transitions from E to U and from U to E. Ui and U on a long sustained note. And there's another technique where I work with the tongue inside my mouth and put it to some R or L position, as I would say Harry or bird, and then you get the very loud overtones. So this is the amplified overtones, and all the other frequencies are deleted out of the sound, and I do that with a specific form and shape of my vocal tract. And this is back to open vowel, where you see many more frequencies and overtones. So this is, what is sound and what does it have to do with overtones and overtone singing? And the overtone singing is basically filtering of frequencies in the vocal tract through specific shape and form of my mouth and throat. That does make the frequency filter put on the sound source, which is my vocal cords. And this makes the overtones stick out of the sound. That's basically how it works. So the next thing I want to show you is what happens inside my head, inside my brain maybe, but also inside my mouth and my throat when I do the overtone singing. So what you saw now in the Spectrum Analyzer software, it's called Overtone Analyzer or Voce Vista Video Pro, and you get it at zugit.com. I post it here. What happens inside my vocal tract to filter the frequencies and to form the sound is something where some years ago I went to Freiburg for the Institute for Musicians Medicine, and there I met Professor Dr. Bernhard Richter and his colleagues, Michael Burdomi in that case, and they put me into an MRI machine. And usually an MRI machine goes from outside the head and makes slices and goes through the head or other body parts, and then you get footage scanned through the body. And in Freiburg they prepared the MRI machine in a way that it stays in the position so that it has a higher frame rate, so that it shoots as many pictures per second as it could. It's still lower than in normal movies, but fast enough that it is possible to render a film from these pictures, from this footage. So that was like how it looks in the control room, for example. And that's also my head here. So that's how it looks from outside the MRI. I'm showing you the video in a second. And this is Michael Bourdoumi operating the machines. And this is how it looks with the MRI. And then you see me in the MRI through the window. And this is not my skull, but my lungs. So that was some behind the scenes of how this MRI was made. And yeah, maybe let's watch the video for now, and then I explain you more about it.
Komm lieber Mai und mache die Bäume wieder grün und lass mir an dem Bache die kleinen Veilchen blühen. Wie möchte ich doch so gerne ein Veilchen wiedersehen. Ach lieber Mai, wie gerne einmal spazieren gehen.
So it is a song written, composed by Mozart, where I studied in Salzburg. So Mozart was born in Salzburg, and it's after a folk song. So, and just to see what you can see here. So that's my nose, for example, and the brain you can see is white, and wherever is a lot of water, it is displayed nicely as white in the MRI. And all this white part here, down to the bottom of the mouth, like here, this is all the tongue. So all that thing that is moving is basically the tongue. So, and then you see that was the normal singing in the normal articulation, which is also very complex in the singing. So you see the tip of the tongue forming articulation in the front. So if you have the tongue in contact to the palate up there, it's like t, d sounds, consonants made here. And the form of this tongue in the throat determines, the vowel and the timbre and how the sound is shaped. And in Overtone singing, the tongue looks totally different because it's put up into this R or L shape, like in bird or Harry. But I usually use an L sound with a very wide shape of tongue, and it's moving through. So it's just showing the middle layer and not the wider angle of the tongue. But this is already very interesting. And what you also can see, so for example, this here, this is the velum, the soft palate, and the air comes from below, and here the air flows through the mouth, and here when it passes here to that pathway, then the air goes through the nose in or out. And in the overtone singing, I lift the soft palate here and I close off my nasal cavity completely, so all the air in my singing goes out of the mouth and not through the nose, or and not mixed. So if you sing with a closed mouth, like then you know your nose is open because all the air goes out of your nose. And if you sing close your nose, then it's going out of your mouth, and you can do a mixture where it's like half open and air does go out of the nose and out of the mouth. Yeah, but this is all very technical details. And yeah, here it's not the MRI machine that filmed me from the outside, because people ask me a lot of times, like, because you can't wear metal in an MRI, and what is happening with the earrings and stuff. So this was shot in the studio and then framed and scaled the same way to the MRI, and then just in the video editing made a transition to the MRI footage where you can see the actually inside of my throat and mouth. So this video is on my YouTube channel, and it's currently quite popular on my Instagram as well, so you find it there, and please follow me. And there's another one on my YouTube as well, another MRI music video. So this film was made in Freiburg in the Institute for Musicians Medicine, and they released a DVD which is published at Helbling. In this DVD you find a lot of MRI footage of classical singers, overtone singing, beatboxing, yodeling, and whatever you could imagine. So they put basically any singing style. They found somebody, put them in the MRI, and this footage you find on this DVD. It's very nice for people that want to understand the singing voice. If you want to study overtone singing and to learn it, I recommend you take a look at my homepage, Overtone Academy. You'll find my video package there and private masterclasses so far, or you can sign up for the newsletter, and there's also some Lump Doma music where you can download and watch the very long movie with the Lump Doma, which is amazing. And for more understanding, there's resources sections where you can download for free some papers I wrote together with scientists and colleagues. So there are different ones that are more complex or easier to understand. So there's voice source formant frequencies and vocal tract shape in overtone singing, a case study by Johan Sundberg, Björn Lindblom and myself. So we can take a look at that one. It's open source. You can just download the full paper, full article, and there's actually, this is long, it's complex, it's analyzing sound, analyzing MRI footage, and basically this paper uses different pathways of proving how overtone singing works and that it's actually a real thing, and every method coming to the same conclusion, how it works. This is analyzing the MRI footage and correlating the shape to certain resonance frequencies, like the shape of the tongue in the vocal tract. So this is the real scientific thing with measurements and analyzing things. So if you want to know it in super detail, how it actually works, you can find it here. And there's a simplified version of that study in Acoustics Today, so this you can understand and read easily. So it's has everything here explained, also about the anatomy. So the vocal cords where the sound is created, they are here, and also this is the tongue as I showed you before, and the tip of the tongue, the velum, which is closing of the nasal cavity, and so on. So this is easier to understand. And then there's something I wrote with another friend of mine, with Robert Eklund and Anita McAllister from Stockholm. And this is more about the artistic and about the history and the Mongolian and the music. So, and we looked into the spectrogram software earlier, and I showed you the MRI of the Mozart song. And here, for example, you have it correlating. So this one is the tongue position for this harmonic sung from that pitch in that moment. And this is the tongue position and the shape in the vocal tract to sing this harmonic, which is about an E3 based on about C sharp fundamental. So that's the first harmonic, second, third, fourth, fifth. So that's the major third in an interval correlating to the fundamental. And it's the fifth harmonic. And sixth harmonic is this tongue shape, and seventh harmonic, and so on. So you can find all that. And this is the scales analyzing. For example, if I sing it looks like that, and like this is so, and that's the Mozart song in the spectrogram, and it's the song you just watched in the MRI. So that's the acoustic side of how the overtone singing looks in the spectrogram software. This is the music notation, so there you can also see how I do write the music. So this is, for example, the fundamental, and then you have 4. 4 means that this sung as an overtone a few octaves above is the 4th harmonic from that fundamental, which means it is 4 times the frequency of this pitch, which means 4 times frequency of that pitch is an octave in the musical interval. And this is here 4 also, and here you have the major third as a music interval, which is the 5th harmonic from the very same fundamental. So 4, 5, 6 is the major chord, and yeah, the 6th harmonic is a 5th in the interval, and so on. So this is complex in the music, but you can read it there, and you find all the thing on my site, Overtone Academy, resources, further readings. Plus, there's some other more easier papers and a table of voice ranges for those people of you that do read sheet music. So having a fundamental, and then the red notes don't work, and the green ones sound nice, and the orange ones are kind of on the edge and don't work very well. So plus links to some colleagues of, so my colleague Wolfgang Saus is linked here, sheet music arrangements from 2 female overtone singers. Those are amazing, work for female voices. And this is the spectrum analyzer software. You can try it out, and there's even a spectrogram for the browser. And this is the DVD I mentioned, and which you saw the MRI video, and you can find a direct link here as well. Yeah, so if you want to go to the active side and learn it, you can take a look at my video course here. You find it here in the shop, which is here, beginner, advanced, and everything. And I also very freshly and new added a membership to my YouTube channel, so please follow me on YouTube. And there is membership, and there I started to also explain basics of the technique, overtone singing, how to get started in English with Spanish subtitles and also translation in Spanish. And this is a membership, it's called Student Supergroup. So if you are learning, if you want to practice, you can join there and basically watch these videos and practice, and send me also a video of your practice, and then I can take a look at it and see which is the detail that would bring the most benefit if there are some technical adjustments, and then I can upload it there for the community of the membership people. So be very welcome if you want to work with me that way. Otherwise, you can book a masterclass or for now, sign up for the newsletter to be informed about future things and the 6-week program. If you enjoy reading, I can very much recommend this book to you. I'm having it here as well. So it's a new edition of an earlier book from Mark van Tongeren, a good friend and Overtone singing colleague of mine. And it has a lot of very nice chapters about the history, about the technique, about the traditional music in Mongolia, in the East, about the physics and also metaphysics. So the chapter 6 is called Body, Mind and Beyond. And there you might find some really interesting things for you and for your further study. A very profound and perfectly well-written book about basically everything in the Overtone world, in the past, in the history, in the East, in the West, and in the now and today. On my Instagram and also YouTube, you will find a lot about my different musical projects, as I am mainly a musician and singer and performer. I also teach, but I love the music and the performing. And there's one project I'd like to present you a little bit, and you'll find plenty of more videos from that project on my YouTube to watch, even like full performance, 27 minutes, or short excerpts with me, solo, plus fellow musicians, and this interesting instrument and sculpture you can see here, which is the Lump Doma. This is something super fascinating. It is made from 264 aluminium metal tubes, and they are up to 3 meters long. So the whole installation, the whole sculpture is like 4 meters in square plus a bit more than 3 meters high, and those pipes reach down to 30 hertz and up to the 8th harmonic of each series, and it's tuned perfectly pure, so in pure overtone and subharmonic scales. So for example, you can take a look here in this is the table of the Lump Doma scale, of the Lump Doma. So there's the yellow segment in the Lump Doma. It's based on the fundamental C, and it's all based on 432 hertz in the tuning. So you have the 8th harmonic 8 from 8, and first from 8 is the fundamental, and second harmonic, third, fourth, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th harmonic from each fundamental. So it's always going from first harmonic, low pipes, long pipes, forming a dome into the middle to the high ones. And this is the orange segment here is based on fundamental D, and the blue one on fundamental G, and this on fundamental F. And then you have all the same notes in the diagonal going from here, and there's another diagonal where the notes are the same, plus here and here and here. And in the middle you have the very high pipes. You see here, this is always the number of the frequency, and this is also the number of the frequency. And the lowest one here you have 36 hertz, and here you have 32 and 40 something. And yeah, the highest one I can find is 3140 hertz here in the middle. And I show you one excerpt of a production with the instrument, with the Lump Doma I made. You will probably enjoy it very much. I show you a short segment, and you find plenty more and long performance videos on my YouTube, or also on my Vimeo, where you can watch it advertisement free. Enjoy! So, more of the Lump Doma videos you can watch on my YouTube channel, and you can also download binaural mixed audio from my website Overtone Academy with some photos if you look there for the Lump Doma. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. I mean, just like, besides the information, it's just, just get really high just from overtone singing. It's really quite amazing what it does to you. So I've got some questions here. First of all, I wanted to mention, I saw that you had a lot of papers there on melody and rhythm and not so much sound. In our Sound Healing Research Foundation, we've now got over 1,000 clinical papers that people can search at Sound Healing.
Oh,
And it's got a lot about sound. There's still not that much about sound. It's still mostly music therapy, papers, but
yeah.
there's a lot more about sound now in there. So just at soundhealingresearchfoundation.org.
So take a look.
Yeah. So, okay, so I got a question because we've had a lot of overtone and throat singers in the conference before, and we've got another one in this one conference as well. What's the difference between overtone singing and throat singing?
That's a good question. So there are many different throat singing styles in the world. So in the traditional music, overtone singing and throat singing is used in Mongolia, like parts of Siberia, in the Altai region. And there the overall umbrella term of everything is throat singing. And in this throat singing, you have Zügit, which is kind of like the Western overtone singing with more pressure on the larynx. And then you have Kargugra, which is a low note throat singing, not necessarily with any overtones, but it can be combined with overtones. So in the Mongolia styles, there's many different styles of throat singing, just some of them using overtones or overtone singing technique. And then we have other throat singing styles in the world, like Inuit in South Africa. In many cultures, you have throat singing, also Canada. And not all of them use overtones. Yeah, but some do, and some use them with vowels only. And then we have the overtone singing, like the Western style of overtone singing, which developed independently from the Eastern style in Mongolia, because it started developing with Karl-Heinz Stockhausen's composition Stimmung, which was published first in 1968, which is a rather recent development in Germany, in the West, also in the US. So it came in the West after the first people experimenting with electronics. That was after the minimal music movement. And then they came up with the idea, well, maybe it works with the voice as well to filter frequencies, what we do with synthesizers anyway. So it has a different background. And there I call it Western overtone singing, because it does not use throat singing styles, and it's just the overtone. And I don't use the pressure on the larynx because it makes me stiff. And then I'm inflexible to move between different vocal techniques. And if I leave the pressure out, I have the flexibility to change fundamental pitches to really sing polyphonic, which is something the Mongolians don't do. So I do that in the polyphonic singing, switching the fundamentals a lot. And I also have the possibility to switch between jazz singing, classical singing, overtones, yodeling. So being versatile in switching between techniques. And if you use a high pressure on the larynx, it has a specific sound, which is like the Mongolian music. But you get so stuck. So it becomes hard to change pitch at all.
Nice. Yeah, I was actually under the impression that overtone throat singing was actually creating the high harmonic back in the throat, but it's not. It's still the tongue that's doing it, right? Even in throat singing.
In everything, all sounds are produced in the vocal folds, and then the form is shaped through filtering frequencies in the vocal tract. So that's everywhere the same. So the production of the sound is always here, And
but
then
the high harmonics are up here, but because in physics, resonance is generally where the wavelength of a sound, which is the compressed air and spaced out air, equals the distance between two parallel walls.
Yes.
And so when that happens, it actually, the sound waves bounce back off the walls on top of each other perfectly in alignment and create a boost in volume at that frequency. And
exactly.
right.
And I formed the vocal tract in a way that they boost those frequencies where I want the overtone to be heard as a separate note above the fundamental.
Yes,
and this is
yes.
how I formed the shape.
Let me show you what I'm talking about here, because this is, I think you might find this really interesting since I was a physics major, and maybe you've got more detail from the scientists you worked with as well. Let me show you here. That's really interesting. So first of all, you know, this is like where the wavelength actually bounces between parallel walls and adds up and does a boost in volume, and that's the overtone, right?
Exactly.
But in your video, so here, that means that one of these spaces between the walls, which is normally between the tongue and the roof of the mouth, is going to equal the wavelength of one of the harmonics or frequencies that you showed with your spectrum analyzer earlier, right? And so it's really interesting to actually see it, because you can, there's a mathematical formula where you divide the actual frequency into the speed of sound, and you will get the actual distance between the two walls. So you can actually tell here, if you're doing a low frequency, well, low compared to 3000, 1000 hertz, the distance, I'm guessing that this distance from here to here is what's actually creating the overtone. Because look here, the distance on a higher frequency from here to here is much smaller. Now it's so complex, it's hard to tell precisely. It could be from there to there, and actually could even, but it's not back here, because that.
So the thing is,
Uh-huh.
the big secret behind that is that there's two techniques. One is the vowel technique, where I work with one resonatory space in the vocal tract, and then the tongue is not up. And when I put the tongue up, I have one resonant space above the tongue and another one underneath the tongue, and they are basically tweaked in a way that they hit and amplify the very same frequency, and that's the reason why this one harmonic gets so loud.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So it is very, so you're saying the top and the bottom.
Exactly. And
right.
coordinated.
Probably not here though, because that looks like it's about the same length in all the different frequencies from there to there, even though it's a parallel wall. Wow. Wow.
You know, it's a three-dimensional space. It's just one sagittal layer or something, but it's, yeah.
So yeah, I used to think that this harmonic resonance, which is called acoustic resonance in physics, was actually in throat singing was happening back inside the throat. But you're saying the high frequencies in throat singing are even still coming from up here.
In overtone singing, I don't know exactly what happens with throat singing, but you could ask
still got overtones.
Leonardo with the other singing styles. He's great. I can just speak for the overtone singing, and all the forming of the sound and the filtering of frequency, meaning amplifying harmonics from the sound and deleting other harmonics from the sound, which leads to the result of two notes being heard, because you delete all the ones you don't want to hear from the sound, also while you amplify the one you want to hear. And all this happens through very precise position and form of all the space that is filled with air between vocal folds and lips.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually deleting them. I think it's simply just boosting this one really loud, because the only way you could delete it would be phase cancellation, and that's really unusual. Yeah, cool. This is really cool. I got a much better perspective on it now. Now there's other another thing that's really interesting. First of all, You talk about how it works when you're doing it,
Yeah.
but why do you think it gets people so freaking high?
I think one reason is because it's something that seems impossible. So it is like being a circus pony or like a circus trick. It seems impossible, like one person singing two notes at the same time, and this is the first reason why people are amazed, because they have never imagined this could be possible. And the thing is that it's actually not happening, but I create the normal sound and I filter it that it sounds like two notes, but it's tricking the ear, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For the mind to hear two pitches, while I just produce one sound, but filter it and take out harmonics in a way that it's freaking people out, because they never perceive sound that way. Because the normal thing is always that you have the full sound spectrum, making sound color or vowel, but that you hear more of the harmonics. And if we just take them out, there's something missing in the sound, and the brain interprets it differently. Yeah, and I think that it has also to do with filtering frequencies is making the sound shapes and the vowels. So people are very used to work with it from whenever they start learning to speak. They learn to operate these tools and to form the sound. So they are very familiar of using the mouth and throat to filter sound in a very precise way for all their life. And now then the listening and the brain shifts completely, the perception shifts completely, and you start hearing in a way that you did not hear before. And this is, of course, bringing things in motion, I think.
Uh-huh. I've got some other ideas to add to that. See what you think.
Okay, sure.
So, first of all, high frequencies like that often trigger specific things, maybe even pituitary glands, I would bet, and pineal glands, because those are that high. I often think of my pituitary and hypothalamus, my third eye, around 3,000 hertz, which you're actually going to. Even the pineal is a little higher, but you're triggering higher frequencies that we don't normally listen to that loud. And I think that could be one thing there. And there's another thing though that's really interesting, and I want to show you. So when you have these different harmonics, all of them are mathematical multiples.
Yes, exactly.
Which means if this is 100 hertz, then this is 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, all the way up. They're exact.
I'm not sure that it shows a sound in this spot of the video. It might just be a breathing noise or something.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Yeah, here we have the
Okay, yeah.
harmonics.
So 100, 200, 300 would be 400.
Exactly.
They're all mathematical, and all sound just about is done that way by God. Mathematical 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times.
Almost.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's inharmonics and there's noise that don't always fit in. But in the voice, it's mostly harmonics that are mathematical multiple, and most sounds in the universe. So this is what's really interesting. That mathematical structure that you are totally playing with your voice is the distance between the planets. It's the mathematical structure of the distance of electron shells around the nucleus of an atom. It's also the same mathematical structure in the vertebrae, the weight of the vertebrae. It's also, Fabian Maman says, it's the actual frequency structure of the auras. And I would bet that it's actual chakras, because this is the way God normally does it, where the root would be the fundamental, and then it goes up from there, right? So so you're tapping into this structure, which is the structure that people always would do music to, based on just intonation, and they would actually tune their instrument to the harmonics in ancient times.
Of course, if they do just intonation.
Right.
But in the West, the music is pretty developed otherwise.
Right, exactly. So you are tapping into this mathematical structure that is throughout nature, big time.
Yeah, and I'm so also very used to listening to pure intervals and just intonation and stuff. So that's, for example, one reason why I don't appreciate piano so much, because it's always equally tempered,
Right.
and my listening is totally to other tuning systems.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. There's no animals that sing to equal tempered, which is the reason we do equal tempered tuning, which is the frequency of each of the notes in of the 12 notes, is so we can go from key to key.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, to allow playing every key and every key sounding in the same quality, basically, and to be able to modulate and to do all the polyphony like in Johann Sebastian Bach's music. It's essential, basically. Yeah.
Right. Well, I would say, a lot of people are saying, okay, 432 through 440 threw us off, right? I would say that equal tempered, when they changed to equal tempered in the 1700s, that's when we really got thrown off.
I know, yeah.
Because every animal in the universe sings in just intonation based on that harmonic structure that you're playing with, right? Every singer automatically goes to just intonation.
Sure. I'm not sure.
Oh no, it's true. Except maybe a parrot that grew up with a professional singer.
No, I mean, it just means, things and noises and sounds can also often happen completely atonal. So I would not say that animals stick to, like, if you have a meow
If
of
they
a
sing,
cat,
they do.
if you have a meow of a cat, they have a lot of pitches in that sound.
Yeah.
It's
If
stuff.
they sing, if an animal sings, they will sing in just intonation. If they just make sound, it's a whole different thing, right? But if they're actually doing singing, they're doing just intonation. And I know that for sure. But
what animal does sing?
well, there's not very many. There's not, there's actually, I mean, cats don't sing. I mean, whales kind of sing, but there's like, the whippoorwill or whatever, the different birds that actually sing real songs.
Okay.
Yeah, they're actually singing in just intonation because they're not going to be equal tempered. That's
I don't think they care.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's just a matter of taking the vocal cords and stretching it in halves and thirds and fourths and fifth and sixth. It's exactly a mathematical structure, exactly the way it's done on the violin as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are, because I really think there's something more than just it being a cool thing for the ear, because it really does take people into another dimension, conscious as far as consciousness as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to point out as far as healing, but we're now working with finding with an electron microscope the actual melody and rhythm within each of the 11 medical systems. So we're measuring the notes of each of the system of the nodes in each of the nervous system, circulatory system, and finding the melody. So this is what's really interesting. And check this out. If you were to do this on a meridian, you can measure an acupuncture point and find its frequency and measure every one of them. So when energy flows through a meridian, it's playing a song, and it's playing a very specific melodic progression, which God has made it to be, right? And I would bet that melodic progression is based on the just intonation overtones theories that you are singing when you do it. So we're looking at actually finding that melody and using needles with frequencies and electrocurrent micropads and infrared light and scalar waves and ultrasound and running that river of flow through each of the 11 systems while in virtual reality watching it. So we are talking about serious healing of all disease, while not just by listening, but by running the music of you through you.
Okay.
And I bet, there's something about what you do that ties in precisely to the way the body works. The melodies that are actually going through the body, because the body's going to be doing it based on just intonation, which is the harmonic series that you showed in detail.
I have no idea. I never ever thought about
Yeah.
that as mainly.
Yeah. So you're singing music that's in the body. I would bet. Who knows anything?
I mean,
around
it's
here
coming
for
out
sure.
of my body. Of course, it is in the body, and it comes out from my body and from my heart and from my inner expression, and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my thinking is emotional expression and melody, artistic creativity. Like my mind thinks in these categories, and not very much in what you described.
Well, what you're doing, though, the intervals is what we're talking about that you actually do. And they're very specific intervals that you always do the same intervals, regardless of your creative process. And those intervals, I think, are the same within the relationship of the parts of the body. That's what I'm saying. So I got something to see what you think. Is I can do a little bit of overtone singing.
Sure.
And I wanted to see what you think and if you have any comments and such,
Awesome.
because the truth is I'm really excited about your class.
Cool.
I mean, when is your class, by the way?
Which one?
The one on overtone singing that you were talking about.
I'm having an ongoing video workshop. People can watch
Oh,
by themselves and work. And I'm
okay.
also offering individual teaching via Zoom for people. But these dates are negotiable with the person and the schedule. And I'm planning for an ongoing or like a 6-week course program, but it's in the planning state, so I don't have dates yet. But yeah, get in
Cool.
touch for people
Cool.
that are interested.
Okay. So let me try and do a little overtone singing and see what you think, because I
Sure.
only do a little bit. Okay, so this is what I would do. And I found, actually, from even watching your video, I knew that I could only do it at one pitch. And I found if I go a little lower in pitch, it's a little bit easier for me.
Mm.
And sometimes I can do it better than others. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the modulation, the movement is correct, and you sing more in a falsetto, in a head voice,
Uh-huh. Right.
which
I
is
can't really do it in the lower voice.
a bit too soft, and it's also hard to control or to get the power into the sound that is needed to make the harmonics strong, loud. So I usually work on pitches with people that like in chest voice with strong
Eh.
yeah, exactly. And if you bring that pretty high, like if you call over the street to somebody, say, hey,
Hey.
yeah, that's a good pitch. Try that sound, that sort of sound.
Now it seems it's more my throat than my tongue. But I guess I can start working my tongue and get it, huh? Huh.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's the two techniques, like the vowels and the tongue. So usually I teach first to move through the vowels precisely to hit the harmonics, and then add the tongue, because then it's easier to start with vowels because you have to fine tune only one space, and when you use the tongue up, it gets louder, but you have to coordinate the space above the tongue and underneath. So it's more complex. But it's louder. And there it's often about doing less, like sustaining the note and doing almost no movement, finding an overtone, and then stay on that position and try to keep it, try to make it louder, and then move on.
I always tell people when I teach it to actually just move their tongue ever so slightly forwards and backwards and up and down. Does that make sense?
Well, if I have, this is the hard palate and this is the tongue here, it does not do anything like that. So it's not rolling totally, but it's moving a little bit and a little bit like this.
Oh, okay, so the tongue against the roof of the mouth a little
The
bit.
tongue, but the tongue, it's like more it's more the feeling and the perception. So it's moving, but it always keeps in touch with the roof of the mouth. Yeah, and it changes the form and the shape. But this is also something that can be easily seen in the MRI, and and it's a lot about like going really fine into the listening, into the perception, and then you know you don't see what is happening inside, because if you look into a mirror you can see your mouth and maybe the position of the voice box, but you can't see the inside, and it's hard to feel. So you learn to control, to get very precise control through the auditory feedback in practicing. So you sit, you make a strong sound, you keep the sound strong, and then you start moving through the vowels or with the tongue. And what people do a lot in the beginning is that they move around a lot. And then you're not gonna find anything because you have to really like go in slow motion. Like really slow it down. And this is also calming, but it's also requiring pretty much focus and patience to control yourself in a way to do so much less than what you would like to do regarding movement.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Just excellent. Excellent. Okay, I have one final thing that I would like to share with you, and that I would love to see at some point.
Sure.
And that is, you said that when you're doing singing, you don't want to go into a trance state because you could you'd lose it, right? If you're doing a performance. I think, but that could be different if you're on ayahuasca. Right?
It is probably very different, but I would not bet that the organizer would still pay my fee if I do that.
No, I'm not talking about going on stage and doing it. This is not a performance. What you should do is just go into a trance and just videotape it. No drugs needed because you could do it. Just go into a trance and see what happens when you go with the trance that you're creating.
Yeah.
You may never come back.
Maybe. It's just a question if it's better there where I'm going or better there where I'm coming from. But it's always a big question of where are we going and where are we coming from.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, these things are super interesting, but what I do on stage with my instruments. So I play the harp, for example, and then I have two hands to coordinate. Then I sing classical, then I sing overtones, then I have pedals on the harp to change the tonality and keys. So I have to coordinate 2 feet going through romantic music or a Schubert song while I play a piano part on that harp. And then I have to concentrate on my singing technique to bring the lyrics out and so on. So I enjoy a lot doing these crazy things where I usually have a pianist and a singer, and then some people replace the pianist with a harp player. And singing to the harp is something traditional and old, but usually more simple to folk songs and things. But I also like the complexity. And what I also do sometimes is the double bass is my newest instrument, which I'm playing like since 3 years. And I arrange music that the harmony and bass and the whole harmonic construction is in the bass, and then I sing, and then I thought, well, I still have my feet free, so I started to do tap dancing at the same time and do the rhythm layers, and then with doing like a 6/4 and going with triads and rhythmical complexity with voice and bass over like basically polyrhythmic stuff. And this is something I like a lot, and it is some state of mind where you kind of program the things on the body. So you start slow, but you program it on the body, and then what's needed is absolute presence and ease in the doing. And as soon as you start thinking, the mind kicks in, and then you fall out, and then you make mistakes, and that it doesn't work. So I like it a lot with the instruments and the music. It's the same as in the circus arts. If you do walk on a tight wire and train, or with juggling, so you have to be totally present and focused. And the second you have a distraction, you fall down. So it's this balance. So it's a special type of attention, but it's
theta. It's actually theta. When you actually are tuning into multiple things at once and doing multiple things at once, your brain goes into theta and your whole brain starts working. And what's really cool is when you're one with the universe in unity consciousness, the brain is tuned into all frequencies at once. So what you're doing is actually bringing people just to that threshold of unity consciousness in theta.
Okay.
By tuning into multiple things at once. Yeah, because what you're doing, it's really, I mean, I couldn't even repeat back all the things you said you're doing. I couldn't even say them back, but you're doing them all, and it's unbelievable. It's so cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's fun. It's what I like, and kind of I make a living from it because people like it too, and organizers like it as well. And I always think, like, if you do what you love, then your own enthusiasm and that you like it a lot and love it, it's also transmitting to the audience and to the people. So it does not really matter what I do, but as long as I'm totally enthusiastic about it, it's going to radiate, you know?
I love it.
Yeah.
We can end with this. We are blessed to do what we love.
Yes, very much, very much.
Anything else you want to share before we listen to your final song?
Yeah. If you want to go into overtone singing, you can start out by making a strong sound and then going vowels from E, and it helps if you do it when you're in the shower, or do it while you're cooking, or you do vacuum cleaning, or you're in the car, because if you have some background noise, or you can do it with a shooty box or something as well, but if there's some other sound and noise, it helps you to hear the overtones better. Yeah, and yeah, please follow me on Instagram, on YouTube, and sign up for my newsletter if you want to be updated on teaching things, and enjoy sound and singing, and what you can discover and find within yourself if you connect that way, and with your breathing and sound production and way of being. So it's a very, very nice thing to do.
Excellent. Well, thank you for all your work and creativity, and because it's just it's lit me up, and I know it's lighting up a lot of people. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
For the ending of this lecture, I want to show you something else and another project, which is Supersonus. So it's my Ensemble Supersonus, and in the project it's all about overtones and overtone-rich instruments. So we work with a Jews harp virtuoso. It's Wolf Jancha from Vienna, and he even won the World Championship in Jews harp playing in Kazakhstan last year or the year before. And then it's me, overtone singing. So the voice purely working with overtones, and the Jews harp also works purely with overtones and overtone series. And then we have harpsichord, which is an instrument that has in its sound characteristics a sound that is very rich in overtones, in harmonics. And the same for the nyckelharpa. So this is an instrument I also play, and I studied, and I even participated in the very first postgraduate concert exam of the nyckelharpa in Cesena with this guy as a professor who you see playing here, and you'll hear him as well. And it's Marco Ambrosini. He's Italian but lives in Germany since many years, and an amazing musician. And the nyckelharpa also is strong in overtones, so it has 4 strings tuned like a viola with all this keyboard, and then you can make chromatic notes and chromatic scales on the keyboard, and you press the buttons and they hit the string with these little things and make it shorter so that the note gets higher. So you use the keyboard here instead of the fingers on the fretboard of the violin and play it with a bow. Plus it has many more strings, which are 12 chromatic sympathetic strings, creating an artificial reverb within the instrument. And so they make this very incredibly, very lovely sound with this cloudy feeling to the sound. And then we have Anna-Liisa Eller, that's her, she's from Tallinn, Estonia, playing the kannel, which is some sort of a zither. It's like a harp with chromatic metal strings from a piano, so the tension is very high. And it's a traditional Estonian instrument invented in the 60s by a harpsichord or piano making company. And it's the same principle as with kantele, with other sort of these instruments like Finnish kantele, but just chromatic and super complex. And these strings, they create a huge sound with very rich overtone spectrum, and the sound has a long, lovely sustain. And this is one of the pieces. It's Ritus, a composition by Wolf Janša, and arranged by the Ensemble, and it's on our album, which is called Resonances, and was released with ECM Records in 2019 with Ensemble Supersonus. And I have to tell you a little bit of something to the beginning before I play this piece for you, which is the Jew's harp. So earlier in this presentation, I told you about the voice as a pathway into trance states. And this Jew's harp is also a very, very trance-inducing instrument. And let's just listen into the very beginning of the piece. Just a second. And then I say something more about it, and then you listen to the whole piece. So enough for the very short bit. But in the beginning, what you hear him do is a very, very special breathing rhythm and pattern, which is in, out, out, in, out, out, in, out, out, in, out, out. So I can't even do it that way. But with the Jew's harp, because it sounds different when you play the Jew's harp, if you exhale on the sound, if you don't breathe at all, or if you inhale the sound. It's totally different sound. So this is part of the rhythm, is the breathing pattern, and doing this in, out, out, in, out, out, in, out, out, in, out, out, for like 6 or 9 minutes straight. So Wolf really has to focus hard not to go into hyperventilation or not to go into a trance state. And when we rehearsed with Ensemble Supersonos, and we rehearsed this piece like 3 times in a row, 6 minutes of doing this breathing pattern, then it was always like Wolf said, oh, I can't anymore. I really need a break, otherwise I'm just dropping off my chair, which is true. So you can try this breathing pattern and see what it does to you. So what I want to tell you, if you use overtone singing and sound or juice harp for your own pleasure, you can use it to go into trance states and altered states of mind, which is super nice and healing in a way, because it regulates the nervous system. It totally brings you into a relaxed, present state of being. But if you're a musician and you're on stage giving a concert, entering into a trance state is something you really want to avoid. So when I perform, very focused on what I'm doing, and so is Wolf. And yeah, keeping yourself present in the moment and connected, but focusing very much on what you're doing to not have any trance kicking in or hyperventilation. So you can do these things, but if you're a performer, it's maybe not the right time and place. Yeah, so thanks for listening and participating, and enjoy the video, and I hope to see some of you in one of my classes. I'm very much looking forward to teach you how to sing overtones yourself. Take care.
Oh.